From Elvado?
They are from Elvado, yep. Hey everybody, welcome to Tavern Talks. Sorry, we just kind of jumped into it. It's all good. This is the one thing about this show is that there is no script, which is great. It makes my life 100 times easier, and it gives us a very organic feel for our interviews, which makes it more fun in my opinion. Give me 1 second.
We're just hanging out.
Yeah, we're just hanging out, which is really what this is built behind. This originally started as two GMs talking about just random stuff as if they were sitting at the bar, which is where Tavern Talks came from. And then we started adding random guests, and now it has become a part of the deal. I've been on this we're on episode 121. I think I've had a guest duplicate
that's impressive.
Maybe 3-4 times, so a new guest every week, and it's been a journey. For everybody that doesn't know and has not been here before, this is the Tavern. This is where we interview guests every single week, and tonight we have the privilege to interview AJ Winters, who is the creator and owner of Winter Tales, which is a pretty awesome idea. Having your own studio to do this stuff for fun just sounds like a great opportunity in my opinion. But For those that are just joining, make sure if you have questions, make sure you're putting those in chat. And if you really want to get involved and ask these questions on a weekly basis, or you want to get to know more about what we're doing, we can also get a hold of, you can also come check us out on Discord. Anyway, I'm going to let you kind of give us the breakdown of who you are, what you're doing, what you're working on at this moment, and then we'll start just kind of see where it goes. How about that?
See where it goes from there? Okay.
Yeah, see where it goes from there.
Cool. Hi. I run Winter's Tales. Winter's Tales was launched like 3 years ago. But I've had the business name since I was about 16.
There you go.
And I knew that I wanted to tell stories my entire life. So Winter's Tales is a growing company that I hope to be able to do storytelling in all different types of mediums, whether that be Twitch streams, TTRPGs, podcasts, all sorts. I've got a plethora of ideas running around in my head. But currently, and what I've been doing for the last 2, 3 years is running actual plays. I'm the world builder and dungeon master for Winter's Tales currently, and we have some guest DMs joining us for different types of TTRPGs. But lately, I've been working on Castleton, which is the most ambitious project I think I've ever tried to do, which is a TTRPG actual play series with over 100 TTRPG content creators playing all of the characters.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But yeah, that's the basic gist about me. I tell stories.
Yeah. No, I mean in really honesty, one of my favorite parts about Dungeons and Dragons is just telling stories, right? That's so much fun.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it was an opportunity to go back to my childhood, which I never thought was going to be the need. But then all of a sudden, I was like, I did this as a kid, and now I get to do this as an adult, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah, make believe and role playing is core elements to creativity, I think, as well. And a lot of people think that they have to switch that off after childhood or when they quote unquote become an adult.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I ever did.
I think I'm telling people, and it's funny because people laughed at me when I joined the military because they looked at me when I was in my 20s, and now that I'm in my 30s, I look younger and I act younger than I was in my 20s. So I'm like, I'm Benjamin Button over here, so I went so far and then started to age backwards. So, it is what it is.
Love that.
If I hit my 50s and I'm, getting potty trained again, then we're going to have problems and it's going to be a pain. But,
yeah, we'll 50s is a bit too early for that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out by then. But, yeah. So one thing I love to ask new people that come on the show is 3 questions. One, how long have you been in tabletop? Because I always think this is an interesting question. And we'll go one at a time, because if I ask 3 questions, you're going to answer my third one and forget the first 2. So we'll go with the first one first.
Got it. Okay, how long have I been in tabletop?
Not
the industry or just playing
TTRPG?
Yeah,
playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, how long have I played tabletop?
Yep.
So I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons when I was 15 or 16 years old.
Okay.
Because I accidentally walked into a DexCon 15 convention when I went on holiday with my family. The hotel that my dad's company booked us into happened to be the hotel that DexCon 15 was operating that weekend. So I walked through the foyer doors into a land of mystical fae and centaurs.
You're going to have to break this down, because
dressed.
For me in the States, I don't know what DexCon is. It sounds like it's another convention.
I didn't either. It's another convention. It's a lot more like TTRPGs and LARPing based, I remember it being. But I walked into that.
A lot more
I was a nerd and a dork. And so my parents agreed to buy me a ticket for the entire weekend instead of me going to do whatever activities had actually been planned for the family. And so I spent the weekend learning about Dungeons and Dragons, dressing up as an elf, making friends with people, and role-playing far too heavily. There was one LARP I was in, my first ever, and I remember slamming a mug down in front of someone, and I was like, "Why did you kill her?" Like, I went full
actress
into the role.
Into the role.
And
that's beautiful.
And it was intense. It was intense, and I think I freaked out a bunch of people because then they realized afterwards I was 16 and. They were very
uncomfortable.
I just don't think a lot of 16-year-olds are that confident going into a space full of strangers and full on like embracing a role and role playing it out. So that was how I was introduced to it.
Okay.
And then I went back to Australia. Didn't really have the friends that would be interested in role-playing games.
Yep.
And so I didn't get back to it until university, in which I hosted a party, going away party for one of my friends who was moving to Canada, and decided I was going to do a D&D game for him and run it, never having run a D&D game ever.
Hey.
Um, but picked it up, learned how to do it, ran it, and then it wasn't until COVID where I signed up to be a dungeon master for people to entertain them during lockdown,
Right.
Here in WA. Got really inspired by it and decided that I wanted to do this as a content creator and basically set up a plan to build a studio and start making actual plays here in Australia.
That's awesome.
That were, yeah. So since I was 15, but like really randomly sporadic, I've only been actually diving into TTRPGs in the last 4 or 5 years, maybe less.
I think we, like we were talking about earlier, is like, you know, you have to go refine that childhood. There is a branch of my, like, I've been playing since I was like about the same age, about 14 years old. Introduced to as a LARP as well, which is the crazy thing that you say that. Mine was a Vampire the Masquerade LARP, so a little more darker and depressed and like scary.
As a 14-year-old?
As a 14-year-old. So I was the youngest kid.
Love that.
I was the youngest person. There was a university that was about an hour away from my hometown. And the next guy who was a friend of mine was a senior in high school. So he was 18, 19, whatever. I can't remember the exact age. And he was like, hey, we do this thing up at the university. If you want to come sometime? And I was like, what is it? They're like, oh, it's Vampire. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Sounds interesting. Sure. Most intimidating and fun thing I've ever done in my entire life. Like 30 to 40 people dressed in nothing but all black trench coats, teeth put in, the whole nine. And I'm walking in as a freshman in high school being like,
am I about to be sacrificed?
Exactly,
yeah,
right?
No, I get you.
So I played a 6'7" Nosferatu bodyguard for a Giovanni Overlord, my first character, and they were like, "You do what?" I was like, "Yeah, I picked the wealthiest guy here on this party in this group, and I said I'll be your bodyguard." And he said, "Oh, okay," and I trained everything into strength-based attacks, and that's what I did for like the first year and a half that I played. And
love that. I love that.
I had unlimited resources and unlimited access to everything. And then because I was playing in Nosferatu, I had the ability to travel through the sewers, and we were the only crew that was allowed to go do it. So I just pop up randomly, kill something, and then pop back down in the sewer and run away. So it was just what I did.
Fair enough.
But like you, they got very intimidated when the first thing is I'm screaming at this 30, 40-year-old guy being like, I will murder you if you don't drop the weapon. And they're like, and I'm 14, 120 pounds, 5'8", and I'm looking at this guy who's probably almost 300 pounds, 6'2", in full trench coat, and I'm just like, and then the weirdest thing that happens, because for Vampire, you don't fight with weapons, you fight with rock, paper, scissors. So the oddest thing happens is they're like, draw, and you're doing this for like an hour, just throwing rock, paper, scissors to kill this person. And I'm like, this is the most random thing I've ever done. And then later that next day, they said, you want to come for Dungeons and Dragons. So we play from like 7 o'clock at night until like 3 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep, wake up on Saturday, wake up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, play Dungeons and Dragons from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then start day 2 for the LARP. And it's just
hectic.
It was hectic. But for high school, you had the energy and you had all the the brain power to do that. If I did that now, please, I'd be drooling by Saturday after that, unless I did a convention.
Probably.
Conventions are like that, but I only have to plan for those like once a quarter. So
I think you can work yourself up to it, right? If you know it's coming, it could be something that you plan for, so it's not as scary.
Right. I plan for the 4 days. I'm not going to be eating well. I'm going to be drinking too much, and I'm going to be sleeping barely any. After those 4 days,
that just sounds my regular life. What do you want about?
Okay, there you go.
Apart from the drinking, I definitely am still in the category of barely getting any sleep and maybe not eating nutritiously enough.
But
But I don't think I ever left the kid phase. I was
that's
that
awesome.
strange teenager that when everyone else was starting to drink alcohol and date people and, like come to you with these scandalous stories of teenage
Hmm.
exploration, I was like, I put on fairy wings and ran around my garden last weekend. Like I just didn't
Yeah,
ever leave that
it didn't
phase.
change, it didn't transition.
No,
Um,
it probably explains a lot about my childhood and just lack of friends, but it made me who I am, and it also I just kept role playing
hmm
throughout my life. That sort of like play, collaborative storytelling that we
hmm
do through TTRPGs. I never really stopped doing
That's
that.
awesome. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
excellent. I
weird,
think it's
but
weird, but
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. Um, I mean, I was kind of that very similar in that way. Like high school, that's when
Mm,
everybody starts drinking. That's when people are going like hanging out a lot. I had my
mm.
very close group of friends, and then I always had a book in my hand. Like always, I was reading Lord of the Rings at the time. I would literally have Dungeons and Dragons books like sitting in class, and I'm just like,
Mm.
okay, this is cool. This, and I didn't know how to play. That was the thing. I was just like learning and learning and learning and
Mm.
learning. And then college went on, and I did a couple games in college, and then I didn't really pick it back up until I joined the military. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and found out that the military is a huge community for this stuff. Like blown my
I
mind.
wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
So
that doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest.
yeah, so found a small group here in my local area, and we played for a couple years. And then I moved to South Korea, and I didn't know anybody again. And the way I connected,
Mm.
the first time I connected was I found a group of people that were running games on Saturday nights, and I was like, oh, guess I'm gonna go play
Hmm.
D&D. Um, and then I did the same thing when I was deployed, and that's where I met an Australian mate. Like we were playing, there was 11 of us in a deployed location
Hmm.
where you're in the middle of nowhere, and nobody really wants you there. You're just like, okay, we're here, we're gonna do what we got to do. But every Friday night we would play for about 6 hours, and there was 12 of us. And our game
That's a lot.
master was incredible. And we started it by just two guys from the States going, I get a bag of dice and 16 character sheets. Let's start rolling characters and see if anybody shows up. And that's what we did. And within 2 weeks, we had a full table of 12 people from 4 different
Wow.
countries and 3 different branches. And it was the neatest thing in the world to say that, like,
That's awesome.
as a group, we all came together. So met people
Yeah.
from uh, the Danish military or Denmark military. We met people from the Australian military. We had a Canadian there. It was very unique to say that as a in a location like that, that's how everybody
Mm.
connected. Um, and that's where this came from. When we said tabletop misfits, it was the idea that we're pulling those people from all these different pockets of life that
Yeah.
they're not seen the same way. Like we're not seen the same way. Everybody looks at us very strangely. At least they did. And then Critical Role came out, and
Yeah.
this became mainstream. And now everybody's like, "Oh, you're a nerd." And I'm like, yeah, "I've been a nerd before that even happened, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just more acceptable now."
For sure. For
So
sure. I don't know what it would have been like if I had tried harder to play D&D at high school. I think that would have been hectic if
right,
I had attempted,
and I didn't play much in high
because that was
school. I think I
pre-Critical
tried
Role and
one. I tried like one game, and I didn't know what I was doing, and that's when I got my first set of dice thrown at me
mm,
and a first chair thrown at me, and I was like, okay, I'm one of those game
oof.
masters that like to kill things, so I had to
Yeah.
watch on that.
Yeah. I tried to produce TV shows in high school. Like I wasn't a
Okay.
normal kid anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't know how Dungeons and Dragons would have gone down. Oh well.
AV Club, it's probably pretty close in all honesty. You probably would have found more than you expected because,
Who knows?
but who knows? Yeah. And now look at you.
Yeah.
Now you're doing full blown content creation and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's I definitely knew from a very young age what I wanted to do. I've always been very clear on what I am passionate about and what I'm good at.
Hmm.
And I wrote stories and told stories from the moment I could write.
Mm,
There's
I
these
love that.
books that I used to print on the old computer where I would make book covers with colored paper, and I'd pretend that I was a published novelist, and I was like a child. But I would also put on stage plays, and I had a camcorder that
Oh
I
wow.
would go and film movies and stuff. Like I've always done what I'm doing today, but now it's actually a career and I have to pay bills. There's the
That's the
difference.
non-childhood thing that you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
if I could have my house and I could have food in my stomach and I could do this for for a living, I'd be a happy camper, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
My goal now, I think, changed in terms of like growing up.
mhm.
Very much, I became aware that this isn't an opportunity that a lot of people have,
No, it's not.
to be able to do this full time or to make this their
I
career.
commend
So
you.
it's ridiculously hard, but I want to get to a point where Winter's Tales grows enough that I can employ people. My
Hmm.
goal is to be a production company here in Western Australia where I can give this career opportunity to others
That's
to
awesome.
to just make content and do fun things as something that they do for their life. So that's become the new. I mean, that was what I started when I
That
first built
was the
Winter's Tales,
passion,
like
but then it kind
officially.
of slowed down, and now it's the passion again. Is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of. The passion turned into doing this for others rather than just doing it for
yeah,
fun.
which is true.
Yeah.
And what a cool opportunity to be able to give more people that opportunity to re-pull back that childhood, like pull the curtain
Mm.
away again and open that childhood open again. Um, and I know there's a lot of smaller TTRPG communities in the states that are starting those pockets of studios as well, which I think is really a unique. Um, I guess with the, and this is an interesting topic, is I guess with the idea that for the most part right now, movies, TV shows, they're kind of on this spin cycle of like it's the same thing over and over again.
It's
And it,
repetitive.
and that's one thing that I love about TTRPGs is you could run Strahd and I could run Strahd completely different, like completely.
Yeah.
And it's even better
Yeah.
is that you could run Strahd with the same people and I could run Strahd with the same people and it's still completely
Still be.
different. And
100%.
that blows my mind that I have a feeling in the near future and after finding out so much about the underground D&D communities that were back in the 70s and 80s and all of these A-list actors now playing and stuff like we met at Gary because you told me you were at GaryCon as well and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
seeing Joe Manganiello, see Vince Vaughn, see these
Hmm.
A-list actors playing
Yep.
um, that and the one that blew me away, I got to meet him and have a conversation with him was Paul Smith. I don't know if you know who that is. So he's the
Hmm.
Big Show. He's a huge wrestler in the states, and he's like 6'7", 7 foot something.
Hmm.
I don't know, big
Yeah.
dude. Um, but to see that and to see that acting
Yeah.
and you asking about that question, like, hey, did TTRPGs help you? And a lot of them will tell you amazingly. Like they use it still to
Mm.
this day to help them with their acting careers and to get into characters and stuff like that.
Oh,
I,
definitely. Role play is crucial in a variety of different senses. Like
yeah,
it's not just the collaborative storytelling, but like as an actor, I went to theater school.
right.
Most of us in the TTRPG space have had something in akin to theater school.
I have not, and
Hmm.
that's the weird thing. Like I
It's
have
it
zero skill for that.
and it doesn't you don't have to.
You
It's just
don't.
that a lot of theater kids want to role
Mm.
play, so
Oh
it makes
yeah.
sense that they go into TTRPGs. But that experience definitely crafted this technique of role playing to be able to help every other role or every other acting experience that you're doing.
Hmm.
Uh, and for me, I got rejected by a bunch of acting agencies here in Western Australia. And so I kind of just said, sod it, I'll go make my own content. I'll go make my own movies or write my own stuff or produce my own TV shows, whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
I think if more
And I
people
found that,
did that, it would be a better
yeah,
thing.
maybe. I definitely think it would give the conglomerate of like big film companies that are pumping out the same stuff. I think it would really shake up what that's gonna become in the future. But also, I have no clue. Everything changes on such a rapid
Everything.
basis. The movie industry, the TTRPG industry, everything seems to have moments of, oh, now it's going in this direction, now it's going in this direction. I'm just riding the wave. I'm just
Mm,
making content going, I don't know where it's going, but I will end up somewhere.
right.
I know that for me, up until the day that I die, this is a very dark, this took a dark turn, but
You're
up
good.
until the day that I perish, I will be creating something. I don't know what it will
I
be,
love
but
it.
I know that I have a variety of different hobbies.
Mm,
Even if I'm painting, even if I'm, having someone else type out a story that I'm dictating to them, like I don't know what it will
yeah.
be, but I will be making and creating things up until the day I perish.
That's
And
beautiful.
I just know that's going to be the
Yeah,
case.
that's awesome. For me personally, this was a way for me to use the other side of my brain. I do IT for a living. I do high levels of computing. So ones and zeros are like what I live with. And then
Mm-hmm.
when when I was deployed, I realized, and I came back, and this was before everything went for a downturn in my personal life, but it's okay. Um, I looked at my significant other at the time and I said, I need this back in my life. I said, there's something
Yeah.
about role playing games, there's something about TTRPGs that is so therapeutic and so relaxing for me, and it brings me back to my personal being, and it allows that other side of my brain to work. That I was like, I need this in my life. And I have
Yeah.
never looked back from that
I love that.
because like I said, and then I got opportunities. Once COVID hit, opportunities were bouncing out off and on. Like what
Hmm.
happened during COVID, though it
Yeah.
was a terrible time in the world. Um, for the for the internet industry, though, it was fantastic. Like because we didn't have anything else to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
A lot of us turned to Twitch.
a lot of people turned
So
to
many of us turned to
Twitch.
Twitch.
I wish I would have jumped on the bandwagon right there at the beginning. I didn't
Sooner?
actually
Yeah.
start
Some of us all feel that way.
I didn't actually start my entire channel until after COVID was over. And I was like, I
Hmm.
missed the bubble completely.
Yeah.
Like this would have been an easier run at that point.
I I had a really annoying situation. So Western Australia, well, this is gonna sound really braggy, but
Hey, go for it.
I promise it gets to a point. So Western Australia, we didn't really have COVID the way that everyone else did in the
Hmm.
world. So we shut our borders to the rest of Australia. We had maybe 1 month of lockdown or occasional sporadic like weeks of
Yeah,
lockdown, and that was about it. Uh, and I think during the first year we had maybe 3 cases, if
that's
that.
awesome.
Um, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
incredible, and we were so fortunate. And our the government of Western Australia at the time was doing a really, really good job of making sure that we were all really safe. And that community, that sense of community in Western Australia was amazing.
Mhm.
The government of Australia had these like things that could happen, you could do to keep money and to keep having your job.
Mhm.
So there was an option of like if you weren't employed, you would have a job seeker payment, which is like a weekly income or a monthly
Mhm.
income to keep you going because you couldn't get work during this
Right.
time because of
You
COVID.
still have to survive even though the
You
world has
still
shut
have to
down.
survive. Exactly. And then those that had a job, they were given, or the companies that were employing people were given job keeper packages, which was the same amount that you would get to keep your job, to make sure that you were still getting paid, because a lot of these businesses, with the fact that business wasn't running, they wouldn't be able to keep
Oh,
people employed.
got it.
What was really frustrating is me and my partner at the time were both getting the same amount of money, but he was on job seeker, so he could stay at home and play video games all day and still earn the money. But I had been
Oh,
employed at the time, and so I was getting the exact same money, but I still had to do my
yeah.
job every
You're
day.
like, I want to strangle
And
you
so I
right now.
couldn't it was so frustrating. But I couldn't start a channel or do anything creative
Hmm.
because I was working a 40 to 50 hour marketing job
Yeah.
uh during the week and doing a bunch of that. So it was so frustrating because I know that a lot of people who started their channels during that period of time, because everyone was home and had lockdown and were dealing with a lot of tragedy,
Mm,
had the time to tune into channels more often, and some had spare income to be able to donate more to channels. And so there was a lot of uh, content creators that really boomed during
oh
those
yeah,
those years that are doing really well, where they're at now. But I also don't regret starting my channel when I did, because
right.
I knew that I needed to build up my name in the space before starting my own channel.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the things that I was doing was very strategic so that I didn't form a Twitch channel that would only get like one or two viewers. I knew
Right.
that if I guest starred on a bunch of other channels first and built a name of who I am and what I could do, um, like I did a stint being a guest dungeon master on someone else's channel,
Hmm.
and then announced at the end of that that I was going to start Winter's Tales full time.
Awesome.
That really helped to like launch what I
Launch
was
it.
doing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I wish I would have learned that. I didn't. Like I started from zero, and
Still
it is
time.
the most. It is the heaviest grind I've ever done. Um, but in all honesty, like though we haven't grown super big, like it's still rewarding because for me, thankfully, and not to brag, but thankfully I have a full time job that is taking care of my needs. Um, it's the amount of people that I have been able to speak with, to network with,
Mm.
to connect with, to play games with that it doesn't. I mean, this
Yeah.
is
It depends what you're doing it for,
yeah,
right? Like
right,
you've had 121 guests
yeah,
in this tavern.
yeah.
Like,
And some of these guests, like
grand scheme of things,
it's
what is your goal? Mm.
crazy to think like some of these guests are the ones that have been to D&D in a castle. They've done the TTRPG like lifestyle gaming, and I'm just like, it's awesome. Like, more power
Mm.
to y'all. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. Would I love to be in that
Yeah.
opportunity one day? Maybe, but I'm not stressing about it. And if the opportunity comes, and I will say that the opportunity has come twice, and I've been too scared to apply for it. And this year I'm applying, so
No.
hopefully, um,
Good.
yeah. So Gen Con 2021, so the year after um, COVID. There was only 35,000 people, which was the best Gen Con I've ever been to
Mm.
because I didn't feel like I was, crowded and life didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
bad. I did lose my voice by Sunday because I
Mm-hmm.
had to wear a stupid mask, but that's besides the point.
Mm.
Mm. But I got to meet my absolute favorite game master, and people are like Matt Mercer. I'm like, nope, not mine. Love Matt Mercer. Don't get me wrong. I really fell in love with the game style that Realm Smith puts out, and I got to meet Jason Azevedo.
Yeah. I
And,
love Jason.
and he's an amazing person. And he introduced me to two people that weekend that I was blown away by. So he introduced me to Justin, who is the community creator for D&D in a Castle, and then
Mm.
Phil, who is a great friend of mine now, who used to be the community director for Gameboard. So we were talking,
Mm.
and Justin was like, "If you can put the amount of gaming that you put on your streams and on your and at Gen Con, he's like, why have you not applied for D&D in a Castle?" And I was like, I was like, I'm just an average game master. He's like, no, you're more than
Mm.
that. The last 2 years I've been frightened to apply for D&D in a Castle, and I think this year is finally the first year where I'm in a better place. I'm through my divorce. I'm structured back to my home. And I'm
Yep.
really pushing hard to see where the next step goes, and I think it's the year I'll apply to see if it bites, and we'll
Hell
see.
yeah. I
So,
love that. You
yep,
should.
yep, I'm going to. I'm gonna make. I've
Why
made
not?
that a goal for 2025 that I will apply for D&D in the Castle, and I'm also gonna apply
Hell yeah.
for D3 at sea. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
cool. I I want to pitch D&D and D&D in a castle. I want to get in touch with the creators and be like, "Hey, can I coordinate the Australian version? Because we have so many
yeah.
like dungeon masters that they're not as big as the dungeon masters that they have displayed in the D&D in a castle in like the UK and the US and stuff, but
See,
we have
yes
our own
and
people
no.
in Australia and New Zealand where it's
Yeah.
like we could organize an
Oh
Aussie one. Like
yeah.
get
Fine.
us hooked up. We have a couple of castles in
Yeah.
Australia, not massive ones, but we
Yeah.
do. We
But
could
here's
make
the
it
here's
happen.
the cool thing is that that D&D in the Castle has stemmed so many smaller organizations that are doing the same exact
Mm.
thing with a little bit less popular dungeon masters, and they're still producing amazing games.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah.
why not do it? Why not put it under Winter's Tales? Go for it. You got a whole studio set up for this thing. Like, knock it out.
I got too many
I
ideas.
get
I
it.
got
I get it.
this is one of like six
Yeah.
things that I have brewing in the back of my
You
mind
ever
to
need a
do.
guest GM from the United States? Give me a ring. I'm happy to come down and run
I'll
it.
let you know.
This year, you know, thankfully, I have a company out of Colorado that does amazing work with us, or with me. I'll be running a full 3D lights, sound game at Gen Con this year in my
Mm.
own booth or in my own room. I don't have to be in the game room this year, so I'm super psyched about that. We've been working nonstop. This is just a sample of the first room. So
Ooh,
it is fully
very
terrained
cool.
out. It'll be 12 rooms and an
I
entire
love
story
that.
built behind it, and it's 3 days long. But
It's
it's
my dream to have terrain. Shipping to Australia sucks, but also I can't afford it. So it's one of those things
yeah.
of
I
we
got
had
out of the
a miniature
military and
designer.
got luxury, like got the luxury of being able to afford terrain, and now I've spent way too
Yeah.
much on it.
But that's the dream. I want to have a whole wall of shelves with terrain
So
and miniatures
I
because I would love to be
live,
able to do that in our studio
yeah, I live in a
one day.
1,400 square foot apartment with my son, my youngest, and we have a gaming table out in the front room that I've not yet be able to play on because I live in an apartment, and they put a new rule out now that I can't have guests after 6 p.m. without paying for their card.
Ooh,
And I was like, what? So we're looking for a new place because of that. I was like, I'm not playing this
yeah.
game.
That's a weird rule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's daily too, so it's $5 a day per car. I was like, no. I'm like, I'll break my friends in a week because like we play games all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got two walls right now of Dwarven Forge sitting in my living room right now. So
I'm so jealous.
you
That's the
say that,
goal.
but I have yet
That's
to
the
play
goal.
with it, so I'm sad.
Okay. Yeah, well that's fair. You
But
make a fair point.
yeah, I will say though, we are working on something that's a little special and very close to my heart. So last year when we bought our first package Dwarven Forge, my son and I sat on Instagram live for almost 3 hours opening boxes,
Ooh,
and he was
cool.
like, "Can I build?" And I was like, and immediately my eyes are going like completely glossed over. I'm like, "Yes, please, like
Mm-hmm.
play with it. This is what it's for."
Yeah.
So we're trying to get time to record him just building dungeons with this stuff and putting it. And he
Yeah.
wants to call it, and we want to call it dwarf builds because he's just that little dwarf that is building away. So I'm hoping that
Aw,
kicks off soon.
that's
But
cute. I
yeah,
like that a
he
lot.
loves it.
Nice.
So yeah, we get Starforge in I think in August, September timeframe, and then
Hmm.
by that time they're gonna launch another Kickstarter, and I'm gonna have to drop more money because every time this new Kickstarter comes out, my son goes, "Are we gonna get this one too, Dad?" And I'm like,
I can't say no to you.
now I can't say
Yes, share
no.
my hobby with me.
Yes, yeah, share my hobby with me, and now spend stupid amounts of money on it.
It's
But
one of the other reasons I don't think I will have kids
mhm.
because I would spend too much money getting them involved in all the projects and hobbies that I
It's so much.
would have been passionate
I
about.
will say that. So I took my son to his first Renaissance fair about
Oh,
about a
cute.
2 months ago, and
Hmm.
before we had left, we had bought him a foam helmet, a foam sword, or a wooden shield. I have pictures with him in
Yep.
full garb, like by the end of the night, and he was
Hmm.
just smiles from ear to ear. And I said, "Okay, I'm sold. Like
I
I
love that.
can't
Yep.
everything. He is
Can't
my
not. Yep.
no, and he's my mini me. So he played his first game of
I
Dungeons and
love
Dragons during the PTSD awareness month that we ran with Operation Tabletop, and
Oh, nice.
it was a very warm and fuzzy feeling for Dad to be able to sit right here and him just sitting here and we just playing together online.
I love
So
that.
yeah,
Very cute.
yeah.
I
Uh,
also love chat right now of School Lunch being
oh
like,
yeah, I'm watching it.
if
It's
AJ
great.
plans something, we will all flock to it.
Yeah, no, I'm
It's
down.
very sweet. Mm,
If I can find, I
we'll
have been
see.
bugging people between Call of Cthulhu, between my buddy Jack. I'm like, y'all get me ticket down there, and I'll be there. I can't afford the $3,000 ticket to get to Australia.
Oh God, yeah, I feel you.
It's
The flights to Gen Con coming up
mm.
and traveling to and from.
I mean, at least you can write that off as
I
a.
have.
So I'm working currently on that portion. So we have currently the system where this is technically a business. Tabletop Misfits is technically
Mhm.
owned by a business, but it hasn't been properly structured yet. So I have to get that structure
Mhm.
built so that I can actually start
Yeah.
writing stuff off for tax purposes.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's starting to hurt. I will say that.
I
Um,
get that. As yeah, I don't have
I don't think you. I don't know how what
you know.
tax. I don't know the logistics behind
Oh no,
Australian
yeah.
taxing and
I
stuff like
can
that. But
I can put it on tax and claim it, but it's also that I am the equivalent of a struggling artist because I am spending whatever money is earned through Winter's Tales to continue to boost Winter's Tales. So like all my income's going into making projects or funding the studio or traveling to different cons to
mm,
promote myself and Winter's Tales. So, you know, I'm living on bare minimum means so that I can do what I'm doing,
continue
but
to
I'm
produce
hoping that
amazing
that
opportunities for other
yeah, and
people.
I'm hoping that eventually that can be like, hey, this is what I can do. This is my resume. Have you seen this project that I
Have
that
you
I did?
seen
Do you,
this
do you
this
want to
massive
fund
thing that
the
I have
next one?
somehow done? I
So
think
that's kind of the goal at the moment.
Kickstarter is
We'll see.
probably a good option for you next year. I would say the next big
Maybe.
project, definitely
Yeah.
Kickstarter or GoFund. No, not GoFund. It definitely Kickstarter, BackerKit, that kind of thing. Where,
Yeah.
yeah, where they're funding a project, and I think you'll do wonderful. I really do. I think that the amount of people you rally behind Castleton alone is enough to fund the next project.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was
Do
actually
you would you
crazy.
like? I mean, we're running into 45 minutes now of just us talking back and forth. But would you like to like
It's
break
okay. I
down some
booked
Castleton?
you have me for my whole morning if you need.
Okay.
Sure. I mean,
Like,
we so I posted a
how did that
video
even like start? Right? Like
happen?
let's start with that.
Right. So last year for our well, for our first Twitch year anniversary, so
Mhm.
this is 2 years ago now, I ran a 24-hour stream
I haven't done that
where I
yet, and I've
had
had people ask me to do it, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do 24 hours.
yeah, it was intense and I also didn't sleep. So I
Right.
did the full 23 hours, 24 hours and I ran a bunch of different D&D games during that time and it was really fun. And then for the second year anniversary, I decided to do a 48-hour stream, this time with me sleeping. And I say that uh, loosely because I had guest DMs come in to help with sections while I went to bed,
Yeah.
but it
It
wasn't
wasn't
like a full night's sleep.
enough.
It was a couple of 3-hour naps in between stuff,
Yeah.
and but that was the 48-hour calamity in which um we built a world with the community, and then within the first game we destroyed it. We started a full calamity, and then the tagline was rebuild the world in 7 games.
Okay.
And so, in each of the games of the 48-hour calamity, and we had world building sections in between, we would start plotting out sort of how the world rebuilt itself or how the plot line sort of got to what the world became by the
Hmm.
end of the 48 hours. And that was amazing. It was so much fun. We had 48 to 50 TTRPG content creators involved in that, which was really cool. And I coordinated it and walked away from it going, oh, this was really fun. And I didn't know I had that skill set to be able to coordinate 48 people.
Right. So
What do I want to do next?
150.
And that 48-hour calamity got nominated for a crit award as well, which is incredible for innovation in the TTRPG space.
Hmm.
So this like uniting of the community, which is my entire ethos of bringing people together and like having that multicultural, diverse
Hmm.
storytelling experience by bringing a bunch of different people from all over the space together.
I have a
So I
I
decided
have a
that I was
project
going to
that
do
I've
the
been thinking about with this. So you and I
sitting
might
on.
have to, yeah, you and I might have to have a conversation about that. So,
Yeah, sounds good. Um, so yeah, I basically decided that I knew what the next one was going to be, and I plugged it at the end of the 48-hour calamity, which was I'm going to do uh, a game that is a combination of Bridgerton and the Hunger Games. And then I knew that season 3 of Bridgerton was coming out around this time,
mm-hmm.
in May, June.
Right.
And so I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity because the prequel movie of Hunger Games also came out in December, so everyone's kind of got that in their
Got
minds.
it.
And I made a video 3 months ago, actually to this day, 3 months ago, posting about this idea and what I wanted to do with it, and that I wanted to gather the community together and do something awesome. And the fact that I had already got 50 people from the 48-hour calamity, and most of those people said to me, whatever project you do next, we're in. So I already had around 40, I think 40 out of 50 of those content creators were already
Right.
signed up for the next one.
Oh, that's awesome.
I posted this video, and immediately within 24 hours, I think I had messages from about 100 people.
Wow. So
And
I
so
was
within
completely
48
like
hours,
on the end of the curve of that one, like
it
completely.
was unfortunately, it was one of those things of first in people got the
It's spot.
attention, but then we started having a wait list so that we were making sure that we were focusing on diversity as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
I find that a lot of the people that were very, very quick to message straight away was uh, predominantly white men.
Yeah.
And all the confidence of the world, white men messaging, being like, I want to be involved in this, which is
Right.
amazing. But I then had to start turning down
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of people because I was like, well, I need to make space for the people that aren't the first to message, that aren't the ones that, you know, are very quick to want to get involved in a
Right.
project. And we started focusing on that for the diversity. But within 48 hours, we had a Discord set up for all the players. It was intense for those first 48 hours of having 150 people in the same space, but it became a project that was moving before I think I was ready for it to be moving. And within the first 2 weeks after that video, I had a video call with each of the players to do a character creation session, like 15 to 20 minutes of discussing the plot and what they wanted to play, what character they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do. And in the meantime, I was getting everything else up and running, the background elements like the overlay, how it was going to be edited,
Mm-hmm.
character art. We have 12 to
12.
14 volunteer character artists that jumped on
Excellent.
board saying, we will make character art. I want this to succeed.
That's awesome.
We have an amazing website team, who Janelle put together a full website
Oh no, yeah,
for
I know Janelle
Castleton.
very well. Yeah, we were. She was one
Yeah,
of
she designed
the players in
it's
our
insane.
Candela
It's incredible.
experience. So
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the website team basically making that all possible. We had 3 incredible musicians join on to make
oh
original
wow.
music for this thing. It just kept growing. People kept investing into the project because they wanted it to succeed and wanted to volunteer their time and their skill sets for it to be even better and bigger. And so I immediately had to sort of step up and go, all right, well, this is more than just little old me putting on a project. I need to sort of step into the role of the CEO
Yeah,
here and
director
coordinate
and
all these
direct
different
everything. Yeah.
departments and direct everything and make sure that this ship was sailing. And it just kind of kept going and happened. And then we launched and people love the story.
Yeah.
I have so many people messaging me about how invested they are in the plot lines that are happening and how the hell are you telling a coherent story with over 100 characters, and can you teach me how to edit? And I just is so many people being involved in that, and it's overwhelmingly
Mm-hmm.
positive.
But it's
And I've just been
overwhelming.
watching it happening. Well, I'm waiting for something to go wrong. I'm obviously making sure nothing goes wrong, but every step of the way, like you have a whole Discord of people that are content creators. So there's risk involved in like I'm constantly making sure the players are all safe and comfortable. I'm making
Mm-hmm.
sure that nothing happens that's confronting, especially with a plot line that has both PvP and like romance involved.
Mm-hmm.
We have safety tools in place. Everyone has just like sent in their safety tool answers and making sure that we check in with everything and do debriefs after every recording session to say, how do you feel? How did that
How's
go? Is there
everything
anything that
going?
you would like to change? So that's been at the forefront of this. But I'm also just kind of waiting, I guess, or at least a part of me in the back of my mind is like, what? When does the drama
When
hit?
does something hit? When does the explosion
When does
hit?
something go wrong? And it hasn't yet, touch wood,
Yeah,
because
that's
the entire community involved in that Discord and outside of it supporting Castleton just want it to succeed. And so we're all saying, no drama. We're making this happen. We're
yeah.
gonna make this project successful. And that's insane. I've never witnessed that
The one
yet.
thing
So
I have noticed, and I big shout out to Gen Con. Just giving me the opportunity to run a game on Gen Con's channel this year was absolutely incredible. But I got that opportunity, right, where it's all content creators, it's all people who have been in this space for a while. I love playing with my home game, and I love playing with players on stream that are not content creators. But there is something about the idea that content creators have that mentality already built into them. To
mm,
I want
yeah.
something to succeed because when it's almost like the idea of nothing will sink if everybody works together to keep it moving forward.
Yeah,
And because
truly.
they're all getting that success, right? If you're a content creator and you're out in this world in the TTRPG community and you're trying to figure out what happens, if you don't succeed, then the stream doesn't succeed. If the stream doesn't succeed, then you're still falling backwards. So your drive is
Mm,
always there. Where I think it comes to be a problem is when you start getting pulling people in that are not always content creators and haven't already built that community already, because
mm,
then you're just pulling people along. And if anything changes or if anything adjusts and they're not
mm.
ready for that, now you have that issue, right? Now you have that problem
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they have nothing to fall back on, and then they're just like, oh, I'm just gonna bail.
Mm,
You can't do
yeah,
that when you're streaming. You can't have somebody just be like, I'm out. Like, all right,
yeah.
let me figure this out. Let me figure out how to write you out of the story. So,
Yeah, luckily the story has been built so that can happen.
mm-hmm.
I've been trying to limit the or trim down the cast as we go because that was the whole plot line
Idea
is like
because you're
people
trying
will,
to Hunger
yeah,
Games it
you try to
down.
funnel down, Hunger Games it down a little bit. That hasn't happened. Just, I knew that would be the
Yeah,
case, but it's been fascinating to watch. But
we
you're right,
just
everyone's
won't
been lifting
die.
each other up. And
somebody,
and like,
somebody
yeah,
she roll live says we just won't die.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's truly and honestly been so difficult to to kill off PCs. Like it just hasn't happened. But I'm bringing in from here on forward is I'm not running the combat stuff anymore.
Okay.
So there's some of the players if they get into the combat situations from now, like gloves are off because it's not me trying to keep all the storylines moving. It's someone
Mm.
else making sure that the reality of the situation hits a little bit. You're right. Everyone's trying to work together. And what's been brilliant is like
The chat is killing me. I'm
everyone,
sorry.
that's all good. Um, Everyone as well, what has been beautiful is no one has gone into that space with ego.
That's
Like
beautiful.
all of the content creators involved in Castleton are at various levels of audiences, of stages of their careers, of starting a Twitch channel or a podcast. And
Mm-hmm.
some have been doing it for years, some have only just launched. And yet, no one in that Discord space, no one in that community of Castleton characters has put on a front of being better than
That's
we it's such a loving space. We're
mm.
all helping each other grow. And that's what I strive to do. That's what I want to do
That's
in
your
my
mantra
life.
of your actual.
That's my mantra, my
That's
ethos that I live
beautiful.
by, and exactly what Winter's Tales was built for. So the fact that that's achieving that goal, I already feel like Castleton is successful, and just the love of the story that has come from it on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
massive added bonus to
Right.
the
It's the
entire
cherry on top,
experience.
right? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
No, I love
Yeah.
that. And what a great opportunity for not only you as the director of all this, but for all these content creators, because everybody's just promoting and blowing up everybody else's. And
Mm.
I mean, one of the amazing things for me is it's like watching all these things kind of from like the outside in, but then being able to come in and have these conversations with you and having conversations with other guests. It's just like it's so refreshing to hear that even though there's all this craziness going on in the world right now, and I don't know how involved with politics
Mm.
and BS and world issues you deal with in Australia, because y'all have like the top 10 deadliest creatures alone. Like y'all are crazy down there. I'm not even gonna lie. I told my buddy, I
Hmm.
was like, you can walk outside and die. Like there's so many dangerous creatures down there. But
Mm.
to be refreshing in this world of TTRPGs and how everybody is so accepting, excited, and just enjoying their lives in this space.
Mm.
It has been an incredible experience for me, uh, and it's
Truly.
been such an opportunity to meet people from around the world. Like you're in Australia, I'm in the States. Like if it
Yeah.
wasn't for the TTRPG community, you and I never would have had this conversation. And to me, that seems to be a a refreshing moment, because I can
Mm.
say that I am building friendships with people around the world, which is absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Um,
Yeah.
let's see
Truly.
here. We
I
got,
think some of my greatest friends in the world are all over the place,
yeah, watch out for the
but
drop
that's
bears, the
amazing.
deadliest of creatures. Uh, if you keep an eye on Instagram, I will. My wonderful friends Jack, James, and Chris, who were at Gen Con or at Gary Con this year, awarded me a D&D Down Under T-shirt from when they left, and on the back of it is a drop bear. I didn't know what a drop bear was because
Amazing.
I didn't understand until he explained it to me. But I will post that picture up for Emily Grace. So check out the Tabletop Misfits channel, and I'll pop that into Instagram here at the end of it. Uh, yeah, let me check here. Do we have
Love
any
that.
questions? Like, we have we have the director of Castleton here, and we have a lot of people from
Oh
Castleton in the channel right now. Do
yeah.
you have any questions that I can kind of like maybe pull out of her that you have for it? Um,
We'll see. We'll
how long
see.
has this project been like kind of floating around in your head? I'm curious.
Uh, I had the concept last year. I don't remember when it came to be, but I remember. Oh, it must have been when I went to watch the prequel movie of Hunger Games. I think I walked away
Okay.
from that movie going, it'd be interesting to do a story based on that kind of structure and processing that from the outside in. And then most of the stories I've created, most of the actual plays are always a pitch that is combining two things.
Mm.
So my first ever actual play show that I did online was Batman villains meets Hogwarts.
Nice.
So it was a magic school for troubled youth
I love
that was
it.
like in a pocket dimension, and they were all kind of like Batman villains-esque,
Mm.
but as like teenagers that were in a magic school in a D&D setting. Then my the bigger show here on Winter's Tales was based on an amnesia plotline, and there's a bunch of different TV shows that's kind of in. So I wanted to do a mystery meets amnesia plotline in a D&D setting,
Mm.
which is very similar to forgetting the name of the TV show, Blind Spot, that Ashley Johnson was in.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? Character wakes up, no memories, covered in tattoos. So that was very similar to what inspired the Chronicles of Aelwyn.
Love that.
And then Castleton was Bridgerton
10
meets
meets
The Hunger
Hunger Games.
Games. Yeah. And so those are kind of where my concepts come from, is going like take two things, shove them together in a D&D setting. What can we do with that? And it's been fascinating. So I think I got the idea around December-esque, plugged it in the 48-hour calamity, and then didn't really think about it for a couple months, realized I wanted to do it in the lead up to me going to Gen Con because I wanted to have something to showcase
Right.
what I could do before going over to the US to be like, hey, I'm an Australian content creator. So
Hi,
rather than
like what? This is what
hi,
I
I
do.
exist. We make things in Australia too for TTRPGs. Instead of having it be that, having the opportunity for people to already maybe know who I was
Hmm.
by doing a big event like this. And boy, howdy, did that work. And just real rapidly,
How did that work?
like that was
Yeah.
within the first 48 hours of me posting that video. I had so many people knowing who I was and Winter's Tales, to the point where I remember going on someone else's Twitch channel and following and have the notification pop up like Winter's Tales is now following you. And immediately that group of people, I've never met them, freaked out that I was in their chat and I didn't understand what was happening and gave me a shout out immediately and were like, Winter's Tales is here.
Yeah.
What?
So let me ask
I
this
hadn't been
question
known
because
up until
I
that point.
don't I found you through the amazing Boss Jelly Bean, Talking XP, and North
Mhm.
Wolf 911. How big were you before Castleton, and now that you've done Castleton, how much have you grown?
I mean, we had around two 2,700
So it
followers on Twitch.
decently
We were still
growing.
decently known, definitely more so known in Australia.
Hmm.
Winter's Tales, well, known in the TTRPG space in Australia, not necessarily known by Australia in general.
Yeah, it's
There was a
different.
lot of
We don't
TTRPG
talk
people
about the
in my
rest of
own
the audience. We
state.
talk about our people.
I remember going to an event down south here in Western Australia, uh, Winterfest, which is this beautiful event for 3 days where people play Dungeons and Dragons in the middle of winter out in
Mm,
this like in cold south of Western Australia. And
why?
when I went there, I remember, oh, it's brilliant. They have like big fire like heaters
Oh,
and
okay.
very magical. They set up the space. It's awesome. And I went last year and I was talking to all these people about what I do, and no one knew that there was a Dungeons and Dragons studio in Australia for one,
There
but
you
also
go.
that it was in their state and that we were making content. And so I had to be like, oh yeah, no, I built a studio and we do an actual play and it's here in your state. Like
Yeah,
this, we exist.
right
So
here.
that was fascinating to not
That's
know,
awesome.
the people in my own state didn't know what we were doing, let alone Australia. But in the
Yeah,
TTRPG space, we were relatively known, we were growing.
it's
And
awesome.
then Castleton hit, and I basically met, I would say about 60% of the cast members of Castleton I hadn't met before.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all these character creation sessions with everyone, being very grateful that they had signed up, but saying, "Oh, hi, like I'm AJ, I'm running this," and
Yeah.
them being excited to be involved, and
Right.
friendships blossoms from there.
Right.
But yeah, it was the fact that the greater scope of people started talking about
Hmm.
Castleton. I think that was where it really hit home for me.
That's
You know,
awesome.
the channel hasn't grown massively, but the word has gotten out about Winter's Tales. I remember I was talking to one of the special guests that's joining for Castleton, and they were saying that someone talked to them about Castleton and about Winter's Tales at the Ren Fair. That there was discussions going on at the Ren Fair recently, like a month or two ago
Yeah,
in the
wait until you start
US,
seeing
and the
cosplayers that
people,
are dressing like Castleton. There's gonna be your. That's gonna be your blow up.
yeah, that would be insane. And someone got into a conversation with another individual in the middle of a department store in like Texas about TTRPGs, and this person was like, "Oh, I'm involved in Castleton. Like, do you know AJ Winters from Winter's Tales?" And this person, complete random woman in a department store in Texas, was like, "Oh yeah, I know AJ Winters." And they relayed this story to me, and I couldn't fathom
Like
any of it. So
almost
there's
almost
there's
teary
this
eyed at that point. You're like, yeah.
it was insane, but I understand it because the concept of Castleton, I think, spread like wildfire of this person or this channel is doing this crazy endeavor.
Yeah.
And so that's how it kind of got known, and that's where people recognize the name from. I don't think they're following the channel, or there's always this like iceberg of I don't want to call it fame, but like being known. There's this iceberg of like you see the top bit of people that are subscribed to you or following you or commenting on your posts. There's a whole other bit of people who know who you
But
are
they just haven't
that you just don't
connected.
see.
Yeah.
They watch in the background, they lurk, or they just, they know of you and they're a
I
fan of yours, but they're not like a fan of
I
yours, and
feel
that's
that
crazy.
yeah, I can completely relate because face and all that stuff is one thing, right? And then I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm.
I run a small TTRPG interview show, and they're like, oh yeah, do you have a thing? And the logo is what gets everybody. They're like, I've seen that logo around, and I was like,
Mhm.
no, you haven't. No, no, like I
Mm.
don't believe you. And
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah,
That's good branding.
right.
That's good branding when people can recognize you from a
Yeah.
name or a
Don't know how
logo.
I pulled that one off. I hated that logo, but for like 3 years I hated that logo, and then everybody loves the logo, so I was like, well, I'm stuck with the logo. So
I like it. It's great.
yeah, everybody told me it looks like a sports team, and I was like, I'm not really a sports person, so I was like, ugh. I wanted something
Mm.
that was more TTRPG esque, but everybody likes the logo, and I was like, fine, I'm just gonna print stickers and fall in
You
real
know,
life.
the sports team
Yeah,
is a really good analogy though, because sports teams, although even if you're not a sports fan, I don't watch
right.
sports either. I went to a basketball game and just yelled out sports, and that was about my contribution to that. But,
I
but
almost spit whiskey
sports teams,
all
I'm,
over the
I'm so sorry.
computer.
The concept of rallying behind a team, of uniting, of being passionate as a group of people
Yeah,
together, that is what sports offer for people who are fans of sports. So it makes
right,
sense that like we are the equivalent of that in the TTRPG
right.
space of banding together, of supporting the
Yeah.
team, being the product or the channel. And so that makes sense to me that resonates with people.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. So before we close down tonight, because we're past our hour, which is perfectly fine, I have no issues with it. But I want to ask some questions. You can be perfectly
Oh yeah,
honest and
you got two
say
more questions
you can
to
say
ask me, don't you? There was
no.
three that we
So you answered two of
Okay.
them without even knowing. So the second one is
Oh,
when did you pick up the mantle, like for being a game master,
got it.
and you had already explained that.
Yeah.
Um, and the third one was what's next, but I have a feeling we'll answer that one at the end.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
so
I
what
know
I
what's
want to ask
next.
though is I have people in chat that are asking questions, and you can tell them
Ooh,
no because I have a feeling they're trying to dig for Castleton stuff, and it's up to
we'll
you.
find out.
So let's roll for dragons. Says AJ, what happened to Gilgamesh? Is brother okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Brother is okay. And that is followed by dot dot dot.
Hmm. There you go, people.
Gilgamesh is alive,
Hmm.
and you will find out what happened to Gilgamesh on this weekend's episode because I've
Ooh,
already done that recording session.
look
Yeah.
at that. All
Yeah.
right. If I missed any other questions, 'cause I only saw that one. Feel free to post that back up. Let me go back up.
Let's roll for dragon says, why is that worse? Oh no. Uh,
I love the comment though. It's just casually built a studio. Like not a big deal. I just casually built a studio. That's funny when you said that at the Ren Fair or at the
mm,
TTRPG D&D thing. So um,
I just
just casually
I
built it.
knew that I wanted to make so we've all seen the shows like Critical Role, Dimension
Hmm.
20, and High Rollers.
Yeah,
Those were the
yeah,
ones that were out there, and none of those were coming from Australia. And
right.
so,
So you said, I'm
uh,
capitalizing on this idea.
I just went, what would be really cool is to build one in Australia and to run an actual play
Yeah,
from our country. And so I was determined to do that, and like a crazy person, I did, and I got that up and running, and that's
awesome.
that's very, very cool.
Yeah,
I don't know how long the studio is gonna survive with rent going up and such, but it's it's been incredible, and I'm hoping that I could build
Continue.
Winter's Tales to be something financially stable enough that we can grow that because I have so many more
Beautiful.
actual play ideas and different show ideas that I want to do. I've been wanting to do a fantasy cooking series for a
Like
while,
Dungeon, what is it? Dungeon
called
Delicious or something? Or I don't know. There's
yeah.
a new
That's an
anime that's
anime. Yeah. So I love cooking and I
oh
want to produce a show called Fantasy Foods where I make recipes that look like fantasy foods. So like
Delicious in Dungeon. That's it. Yeah.
people, yeah, delicious and Dungeons. So you could make these recipes at home to serve at your table where you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but it's like bat wings or rock cakes or like
Right.
things that you would find in a fantasy world. Because there's a lot of
And if
like
you
even the
have
Dungeons
that
and Dragons
large studio
cookbook
that you
is
can do
like
that,
it's still normal food, right? It's still food that you would still it's like stews and roasts and
hmm
amazing dishes, but it's not something that you would find in a completely fantasy world. I would love to make like blue meat or whatever it is, like I want to make weird stuff that you can then use the recipes for in your home games and build
that'd be
that. So
awesome.
that's been something I've wanted to produce for about 4 years.
Oh
So that
wow.
hasn't been done yet.
So do you like to cook?
Um, I like to cook for others. I'm real
Okay.
bad at doing it for myself, but
I
I've
cook
thrown
large
dinner
meals,
parties.
but that's just
Yeah. I hosted a full dinner party with like 5 course meal because I love hosting and throwing events. It had like a planned menu and everything. And my next one that I want to do that I've been sitting on the idea for 11 years is my dinner party called Around the World in 7 dishes. So instead of like 70 days or whatever
hmm
the that's from. And so each dish will be from a different continent
oh nice.
themed and the menu is a passport. And so every time you finish one
Oh,
of the
that's
dishes, you get like a stamp. It's
excellent.
like I have things I want to
Yeah,
do. It's
and
just
it's
that I
not.
don't
And the
have the
cool
time
thing
or
is,
budget for them.
it's not just D&D based too, which is really cool because it allows you to branch
Yeah.
out past that. You just like
And
to tell
that's my
stories.
goal is to be, I just like to tell stories. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why Winter's Tales was named what it was. My last name is Winters and I tell tales. It was
it's
it
very
was
simple.
very
Very
simple.
simple.
But
Um,
I have always said that I want to become the dropout of Australia. So
mm,
I want to be the Sam Reich of Australia.
yeah,
I don't have the money that Sam Reich does, nor the comedic
yeah,
talent,
yeah.
but I want to do
The
that.
amount of
So
people that
it's not just
have
going to be TTRPGs. It'll be other stuff
and
too.
it's crazy to think because you also have to realize that has been around. Dropout has been around for a lot longer than
Oh
Dropout.
yeah.
Like
Oh
I
yeah.
grew up with what I didn't realize was Dropout because I grew up with College Humor, which then turned into
Hmm.
Dropout. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Boss Jellybean's right. Yes, College Humor. Yes, that is the
Yeah.
original, and that is what I grew up with that in early like late '90s, early 2000s. So we're talking almost 20 years of creations right now. So you've
Yeah.
got time, girl. You've got time.
Yeah, I got time. It's I think it's this graph that I'm currently on,
Mm,
right? Which is how many people know me and how much financial backing do I have to be able to pull this all off? Because right
Kickstarter.
now, in the grand scheme of things, I am one woman
Mm,
running this channel. I have incredible volunteers for Castleton that I want to be able to contribute some
mm.
money towards. So I'm putting some of the percentage of donations that we're getting for Castleton aside for all of our volunteers to get
Oh
a little
wow.
something. Um, but I also need to pay rent, and then on top of that, I don't know where I'll get to. But if we had financial backing for Winter's Tales, I would employ people immediately.
Mm.
Janelle's getting an immediate job as my website designer,
Janelle is
straight up.
fantastic. I need to
The
hire
amount of
Janelle for
ideas.
the
Yeah,
Misfits web design alone. Like I am a horrible web designer, and from what I've seen her do for Castleton is just mm,
yeah.
fantastic.
I
Not
mean,
to
Somebody's
mention,
Hero has been also our part of our website team as well, and has been helping to program that. So they're getting a job. Like
yeah,
honestly,
you're like I could hire an
I
entire
should
crew
pitch
with
to
like
I should pitch to the world, to the Australian government of going, I have so many ideas. I just need the funding.
Just
I
need
would employ
money.
so many people. Like I would bring in so much work to Australia. I should
Yeah.
really send an email
Yeah.
to the Western
The
Australian government and just
downfall
say,
the downfall is that most of your income would go outside of Australia.
well, to not necessarily. We do have incredible creators
Yeah,
that are also Australian based,
that's
and I would
excellent.
hire a lot of WA folk
Mm.
first, all of the production team, but then it would be like getting people in, but also tourism.
Yeah,
Like I would get people to fly to Australia more often if especially WA if I
hmm
could build a studio here
right,
and say, well, we're going to be getting in all of these, imagine I hooked up the Critical Role cast to come to WA more often
right.
and did a live show here. That's a lot of
Yeah.
like people coming in, flying in, tourism, tickets, all sorts of stuff.
So
I've just
maybe
got to
I need
pitch this shit.
to. So maybe I need to connect you with a person. So I am. I am decent friends. I wouldn't say I'm like super close friends, but I'm close friends with a good friend with. Um, shoot, is Jeff. Man, my brain. I'm almost a full thing of whiskey
Hmm.
in, so and it's late here. So
And contrasting, it's morning and I've just almost finished my coffee.
yeah. Give
So
me
I'm
one
full of
second.
energy.
I'm gonna pull up social media
No
because I'm gonna pull
stress.
his name. Jeff Richards, who is the creative director for Chaosium, so called
Holy shit.
Cthulhu, and they have a studio down in Australia. So I think there is a connection that needs to be
All
made
right.
to help you
Hell
grow
yeah.
that a little bit, and I'm happy to
Look,
connect that. So
the next couple of projects that Winter's Tales is going to do are going to be smaller than Castleton in terms of cast,
mm,
larger in terms of budget and production value. And that's
mm,
saying something because the bu production value of Castleton in itself has been like trying to be
I'd be
trying to be
curious to see
already
what that
top
would look
quality.
like. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what that look like. And I have to watch an episode. I've been so busy the last couple of months. It's horrible.
You will fall into Castleton brain rot, and I'm warning you ahead of time because everyone in chat, everyone in
Yeah,
the Castleton community
yeah.
is so obsessed with the story.
So my question is,
I
are
don't.
you doing it on podcast yet?
I want to turn Castleton into a podcast.
I
I've got to
need it
clean
to
up
be
some of the
that because I
audio.
don't have time to video watch it because I can't do it at work.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
I can do audio
It's
of it.
on. It's on. The first two episodes are on YouTube, and you
Okay,
can kind of
I'll get that
half
off
use
of you
YouTube
then,
as a
so
podcast. But
I can plug that in the back of
yeah,
my computer and run that while I'm at
hell
work.
yeah,
But yeah, no,
go
I
for it.
everybody that is in the chat right now is obsessed with Castleton, and thank you all. Like, I'm just gonna say, I didn't expect this tonight, but thank you all for just following the channel and helping out with the channel. I know somebody had mentioned
100%.
subs. I don't know if you're talking about subs for me or for her. Either way, I'm sure we both could accept extra subs. It always helps. It does
Mm,
help run
keeps the
it
lights
keeps
on.
the lights on, right? And I really do
Hell
appreciate
yeah,
just
I
taking
love
your
that.
time and energy, and waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning to come, hang out with me instead of actually getting work done, which probably means you're
I was up at
backlogged. So,
4.
oof, gross.
I'm I'm waking up at really sporadic times at the moment. This was my comment about me having lack of sleep earlier. I'm waking up at really sporadic times because we have 8 different time zones in. Aw, thank you, Boss Jellybean. Look at you. That's amazing.
Janelle, you
Um,
are a gem. Quit. Don't make me cry on camera.
do it.
No.
Uh, no, so I've been waking up at really sporadic times because we have 8 different time zones involved in this.
Right.
So, the groups of players that occasionally I have to put together are in a bunch of different time zones. And so I have to get up to play a session at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it might need to be in order to make it possible. And I knew that going in.
Yeah.
I was fully aware that this 2 months of Castleton is going to be me
Getting everything on the.
sleeping weird
Mhm.
hours and getting it all together. Yeah, for sure.
So, I know this is not something that we want to hear, but like, when do you how long do you think Castleton is going to go? Because it actually is a Hunger Games. So, like, what's your thought process? What's your guess?
So we have 4 episodes left to the end of July.
Hmm
However, and this is spoilers for some of the people in chat right
Yeah,
now
a lot of
who
our
might be
people in
sworn to
chat.
secrecy here because it hasn't been formally announced.
Okay.
But I have been wholeheartedly considering that the four episodes, so the fourth episode of this month, the end of July,
Yeah.
is not going to be the finale episode, but the mid-season break episode, because there is the
Ooh.
potential with all the storylines that are forming that I don't have enough time to like wrap them well, and I would not
Mm.
want to rush this. I am then going traveling for 2.5 months,
Yeah. To the
and then I
States.
would pick up to the States and to the UK and to Germany, and then I would pick up
Look at you,
Castleton
girl.
again at the end of October and run it till the end of the year
Okay.
as like the part two, Castleton part
Right.
two
Castleton
of
Part
this
2.
season. But so that's something I'm considering, and everyone in chat right now who's part of Castleton, don't
Oh,
let the
they're
rest of
loose.
Castleton
Like
know
I've got the
yet.
entire chat
They're
room just
losing their minds, I
blowing
know,
up.
but don't tell the other Castleton crew yet, because I'm gonna announce it, I think, this weekend. Thank God, AJ's been killing me not telling people. So suppose Jellybean. Um, yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want to rush it. I don't want
Right.
the story to be haphazardly put together by 4 weekends from now. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much content that we could release bonus content as I'm traveling,
Mm.
um, keep people interested, and also then have that like mid-season break, have another video call with each member of the cast to be
Mm-hmm.
like checking in, where is your character arc going,
Mm-hmm.
reset that, and then um
So are the characters
and then
playing
start
out
up again.
anything in the Discord, or is it just to chat?
No,
Okay.
no, I have 100% asked that roleplay only be involved in the recording sessions, because
Mm.
otherwise I can't DM what I don't see.
Excellent. Yep.
And people are sleeping and awake at various different times because of all the time zones. So it would be incredibly impossible for us to have any role playing happening in the Discord or outside of what I would be able to see.
Mm.
Um, I have private group chats for all the different people who have teed up something with other characters as well, because there was a few people initially who like teed up something with another player, went and had a full conversation about what they wanted to do, and then came to me and meant, "Oh, we're going to tee up our character storylines." And I went, "Actually, you can't,
Can't. It doesn't make
because
sense.
it doesn't make sense, and here's the canon reason as to why that would be tough to do." So instead, I've said to people, if you want to tee storylines up, let me know. I'll put you in a private chat, but then at least I can see it, and I can
Right.
chime in if anything needs to be chimed in with world building wise. But as the DM, when you have 6 players, you can do that, right? You
Right.
can know what's kind of going on with all 6 players. When you have 113 players currently, you've got to know what people are intending to do, but you also
Mm.
have to let people know, like, hey, slow down on your processing, or
Mm-hmm.
don't plan too far ahead because things can change really rapidly, and like just go with the flow of the story of what your character's experiencing and
Right.
feeling in the moment, rather than trying to like preemptively plan anything
Oh
ahead of
yeah.
time, because it might not happen.
That's
So
beautiful.
that's been the most
Yeah.
complicated part of this, I think, is it's not like a regular D&D game or a regular storytelling experience. It's this really specific method in which it has to be done so that it works. Otherwise, it just wouldn't.
So
Otherwise, it would fall apart real quick.
I'm gonna ask this for our audience here tonight. Once Castleton is
Mhm.
finished, and I'm not talking Castleton mid-season, I'm talking
Part
Castleton
one, part
as
two.
part two, one and part two are finished. Would
Yeah.
you be interested in a live interview with Winter's Tales that explains how this was all put together? Because I'm curious, but I want to know if the audience is
A
curious.
full debrief.
A full
Yeah.
debrief that
I
explains everything, and we can do it off. We can either do it recorded or we can do it live,
mm,
but just breaking down like how you put things together, how systems
hmm
set up, what, because I'm curious if there are multiple people in the world that really are interested in doing these massive, I want to say MMO type TTRPG sessions,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. It no longer, there's so much less of the story as a large
Mm,
story, and more so, how do I wrap and twist and put the boxes together for each of these little pockets.
Yeah.
If you're
I
interested in that, please just blow up the chat, and
look,
I will
we've got we've
we'll
got
make it happen.
we've got multiple options with that. One, we're going to be doing a bunch of behind the scenes content whilst I'm away.
Mm,
If we're looking into this part one, part two of Castleton, um, we're getting some retrospective interviews with with the characters of the show, but also going to do some behind the scenes interviews with players of how they got involved, what their
mm,
experience has been, all of that kind of jazz. And me sort of showcasing a little bit behind the curtains of how it's all been put together. But I did get asked by someone if I was interested in writing a book on how, like basically a how-to guide on to do this.
yeah.
And I actually answered no, because the thing is, I don't know if this is replicatable.
Mm. I have an
And
idea that
that's
I want to run
full
by
honesty
you.
of like, I
'Cause-
don't know if this can, with the size that it is, it's
mhm.
truly a miracle that this is working. And it's only working because I'm a crazy person and I have everything that I'm doing, I have the skill sets to be able to do all of those things and manage it, because the risks involved with a project like this is you have to be someone who can like lead the group, but also be a PR agent and a marketing person, and you know, have the editing
Yeah.
the preemptive knowledge of being the editor of the show whilst you're DMing it, to know where you're going to put the cuts together for
Hmm.
something like this. On top of that, people management skills,
I've seen the
being
spread
able to coordinate with a bunch of people,
Jelly Bean.
the
I've seen the
spreadsheets.
spreadsheets.
On top of that, it's if you were then to do it with a team, because I got asked, oh, do you want to do Castleton season two next year? And then you could hire a bunch of people or get a team together. The problem with then having a team is you have too many chefs in the kitchen of going, well,
Hmm.
I have this idea, but I have this idea. And so if someone else was
You
to
have
try and
to
replicate this formula, but with a group of people,
you have to rally
there could be
them.
there's risks involved, because then you could have drama between the different content creators of how they want to run it. The only reason that this is working is because it's everyone's coming to me to be like, do you want this? And accepting that if I say no, it's not what's going to happen.
I love
So
that.
there's no debate on how it's running, because I'm doing how it's running, and
Hmm.
making sure that that's the clear path that it's going on. And so if I had a team, that'd be really hard to manage without all of the preliminary discussions that we need to have before that, of like, okay, how does the hierarchy work with this? Like on a film shoot, who has final say? But putting that person in that leadership position can be risky and all sorts of
Hmm.
stuff. So honestly,
I don't
I
know.
wouldn't recommend, because
Doing this.
I cannot guarantee. And also, it would be really dangerous for me to go, here's the formula, and hand it over to people who might not be able to manage
It's a
said
lot to
formula,
manage.
or could take it, not do well, and then say, well, that's what AJ did.
Mm.
So there's so many risks involved
Yeah,
in that
and
of
you're like,
going,
can I really implement everything I had to do in order and put it into a book
yeah.
format that made sense for others?
And
And
that
that's a
people could
huge.
genuinely say that this would work. That's the
Hmm.
other thing. I cannot guarantee that any of the advice I would have about doing a project like this would be able to work for someone else.
Hmm.
And therefore, me putting that out into the world is such a risk, because this project, I'm so careful every step of the way to make sure that my players are comfortable,
Hmm.
that everyone is
Yeah. And let's
doing
give
well
a like
mentally.
round of applause
That
when she says players. It's 113. It's not. It's not six. Like holy crap.
Yeah. And I'm gonna make mistakes and slip up occasionally, and I
Hmm.
definitely have already, but being able to then work through that with those players that I've maybe like done just slipped up, there was a couple of times where I booked someone into a session, but I hadn't fully like tagged
Right.
them, so they hadn't seen that they were in that session, and
Hmm.
it didn't work for them, and then they were upset that I had booked something but it wasn't what they were actually able to do, and all sorts of stuff. Those little things are going to happen.
Hmm. And you're supposed to have
And
it.
it's
And
so,
sadly,
you know,
you're supposed to have a team for this kind of thing, and we have one. So,
we have an amazing group of volunteers that have
right.
helped that I've definitely now started to lean on in terms of putting sessions together and booking things. But
Oh,
at the end of the day,
nice.
it's still my responsibility to make sure that no one walks away from this experience worse
Unhappy.
off than when they started,
Yeah.
or are made to feel uncomfortable by any of the other cast members, or that, something doesn't go wrong in terms of uh role play and like crosses someone's lines or veil.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is involved in the process of this, and I wouldn't be able to guarantee that if I gave the advice to someone else to do this project,
No, you
that they
have to
wouldn't,
have a specific
yeah, that they
type
wouldn't
of.
fuck up and then be like, cause someone uh put someone in a precarious position, make them uncomfortable, mess up in terms of lines and veils, and then be like, well, that's what AJ did.
Yeah, and hopeful, and I
You know?
hope that and that's the downfall of writing a book and writing
Mm.
a guideline for this is that that's the preconnection premonition is that was what would happen, right? Is that would
Yeah,
you would hope that people would realize like this is the guidelines, but it's still your personality, it's your experience, it's your training, it's those types of things that you
yeah,
have would yeah, preconceptions. That's what I was looking for is the word. Thank
yeah.
you. Um,
And it's me being hyper vigilant
mm,
prior to anything happening that
right.
I think is
It's the real
the
reason why you
real
haven't
thing.
had
I'm not
problems yet, too.
yeah, I'm thinking ahead of time about what could be problematic rather than it happening and then me trying to fix the
Mm.
issues. Uh,
Do you
and
play
that's the type of
chess?
individual that I am. Yes. Not well. I used to. I think I play mental chess rather than actual physical chess.
You're very good at mental chess.
It's a lot of I'm my skill set is analyzing human behavior. It comes from neurodivergency and potentially my autistic side of being able to read people and learn that so that I don't fail in social
Mm-hmm.
situations. And so again, it's like this, what I would be trying to write as a formula is
Almost
who I am.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really quite risky to put that out. And so I will always offer advice, but my advice will come from here's all the things that can also go wrong.
Mm. I love that.
Here's all of the other things that, might you might need to take into
Mm-hmm.
consideration.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
promote.
doesn't mean it's not possible. I just
Right, and
I
I
wouldn't
have a
recommend.
similar idea because
Hmm.
for months we were doing this idea, and I was going to present it to you, but with Castleton being so big and with you having multiple projects, I was like, this is kind of not the project I would bring this on it. But the tavern this year has developed into three different versions of interviews. So you have a character interview, a world building interview, and then a project interview. We did, of
Mm.
course, the project interview, but I'll bring a character called Tavern Keeper, and he is a multi-world, multi-dimensional being that you randomly will walk through a doorway, and you'll enter the tavern. Um, my idea is doing kind of what you were talking about, which is the 48 hour. I was going to do 24 to try it first, and
Mm. Definitely.
bring four players and a game master to tell a
Hmm.
story every 4 hours, and then you would go in and out of the tavern. So the difference is when you went back to the
Mm.
tavern, your characters would level up, the players would switch, but the characters would stay the same. So
Oh, that's
so
cool. I
all
like
the
that.
characters would have to be built as a group with those actors or those content creators and whatnot. But now you've got me
Mm.
thinking bigger because I want to do a 1 to 20 with that setting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, but yeah,
Hit me
that's
up. I think once I have the time and the capacity past this event,
mhm.
I am considering like
Brooding at the next
offering
project.
advice. Yeah, well, the next project's already being formulated,
Mm,
not planned, but formulated.
yeah,
But I am thinking about like as a source of income of being a sort of
consultant,
what's the word? Uh
consultant, yeah,
consultation.
consultant,
Yeah, like
yeah.
a consult in terms of producing these things, like not becoming the producer for it because I don't know if I'd have the capacity, but being someone that you could like email and say,
Reach
I'm trying
out
to put this
to.
event on. What do you think? And just like not even on like me as a professional in this space because I'm not professional. It's just that I've
Production
had
advisor. I love that idea.
production advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that could be something that I could do in terms of like side income or
Mm.
whatnot, because I wouldn't be charging that much anyway. We're all AP producers. We don't have a lot of the funds, but it could be something that you know,
Yeah.
you book in an hour call with me and we talk through your idea and I give
Right.
advice of
Yeah.
what I've been through or whatnot. Because so many people have sent me messages being like, how do I do this? Or I've got this project idea. And so that could be
Yeah.
something that I could dive
And what
into
it is,
next
it's
year.
nice, is that you've had the experience. Like I was just gonna do it because it's what I do with this channel. I don't know why I'm brave enough to even think that's a good idea, but I
No,
have
be
the
brave.
entire time. I
I live
probably
by the
will.
quote. I live by the quote, you don't know how far you can fly until you spread your wings.
I love that quote.
That's what I live
It's
by.
beautiful.
Unless you try, how will you know if you can do it? That's why I
Mm.
do such crazy things, because I jump on that train, the train is moving, and then I
See how
do it.
far
And
that
afterwards I
see when
look
the
back and
train
I go, oh,
hits.
well,
I
yeah,
did it.
see where it goes.
Yeah.
How far did I go?
Yeah, I like that. I really like that quote, and in all honesty, it is something that I've lived by for years. It's like
Hmm.
until somebody tells me no, I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
pushing forward, because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
But
And I think a lot of people should embrace that because I think a lot of people are scared to fly. So why
mm,
not take your ideas, try them?
you know,
You're only going to learn from them. Failure isn't bad, failure is something to learn from.
Boss Jellybean says, "Be careful though, because if you use your wings in Castleton, she's gonna take them away." Is there an extra story we need to tell before we end the night?
Yeah, but there's been a lot of theories about wings in Castleton, and a couple of people had their wings damaged or taken away during a big boss fight in early Castleton eps. But there's reasons for it, and they're not gone. So we'll see.
You fall no matter what. Well, thank you so much for taking the now over hour and a half of your time tonight, this morning
It's
to.
all good.
No, I loved it, and we learned so much about not only your projects but also the idea of building and then your ethos, and it was just a wonderful interview. And I thank you for just taking your time to do it. Thank you for the audience for being absolutely incredible, just blowing up chat. Boss fight, the floor was the boss battle. It's like, oh goodness, the floor. I don't even want to know. But
Yeah.
definitely go check out Castleton. It is an absolutely incredible project that AJ and the 150 plus creators have
Hmm.
worked on. Um, I will be hopefully plugging that into my ears this week, as we continue. And
Best of luck.
best of luck. For those that are just watching, how many episodes are we at right now?
We have released five. We've
So five
streamed five
episodes. Okay.
episodes. Uh, so two are on YouTube. Episode three is coming out today on
Okay.
YouTube. I had to clean up a lot of the editing for that. And then hopefully I'll get episode four and five out this week as well if I can before Flashback Fridays. And then the next episode this weekend.
Awesome. Definitely keep an eye out for Winter Tales. And thank you so much for once again coming out. Next week, we have the creators of The Laughing Moon coming on channel. So we'll be interesting.
Ooh.
Todd and Griffin. Todd is a writer, and they bring their TTRPGs to conventions. She is a cosplay artist, and they do an incredible opportunity. But yeah, come back next week. See
Amazing.
another set of creators. Always, of course, if you have questions and you can't reach out or you can't connect through the time that you're in on Twitch, make sure you post those in Instagram or Facebook, whichever way you're connecting to Tabletop Misfits. Is there anything last that you would like to say before we call it last call for the night?
Oh, there's a plethora of conversations that you and I can have. But did you want me to answer the last question of what's next?
Sure. What's next?
Or should we sneak that?
Do we want to
So,
sneak it? I don't know. Um,
I don't
give
know.
us a teaser of what's next then.
Okay. I'll give you the tagline pitch.
Ooh.
The next show that I'm gonna run is gonna be called Who Wants to Be the Next Adventuring Party? It
Ooh.
is
And what?
every reality TV show mixed with Survivor in a D&D setting.
You heard it here on the tavern. Everybody, raise your glass. This is last call. I'm your tavern keeper for the night. Hope you all had a wonderful evening, and we see you guys all next week for the next episode of Tavern Talks. If you're curious of how I run games, you can also see me over on Gen Con TV on Monday nights as we pick up our adventure in Icewind Dale with our crew for episode 18. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Where is my ending? No, that's not the ending I wanted. I wanted that one.